Ladies and gentlemen, you are watching a clip from the Sideline podcast. If you're interested in watching the full show, head over to Spotify and whilst you're there, leave a 5-star review. It would be very much appreciated. But for now, enjoy this little segment.
Oh, who's at it? If West Ham win the Europa Conference League, because we're in the semi-final,
Yeah.
who's had a better season, West Ham or Brighton?
Brighton, truly.
Nah, West Ham. West Ham would have won
Really?
silverware. West Ham would have won silverware.
Yeah, but come on, seriously. Who? No discredit to the tournament, but who is in the Europa Conference League?
Yeah, but Roma won it last year. Roma's a big team.
No, yeah, Roma is a big team.
You're the second ever winners of a European competition, and you're West Ham.
But Roma was still fighting top end of Serie A.
In the league, right? Brighton have had a better season in the league. That's undeniable. That's undeniable, right? We've had a better season in the league. Brighton have been fantastic in the league. However, if West Ham win the Europa Conference League, for clubs like West Ham, Brighton, Newcastle, Everton, every team who isn't pretty much Man City or Man United, or Liverpool, any other team, a trophy is so important. I mean, they would both be playing Europa League next season if West Ham won the Europa Conference League. We'd both be in the same European competition next season. Yes, Brighton finish high in the league, but West Ham have a trophy.
But to me, getting Europa League is harder to do it in the league than it is to win the Conference League and get it.
I don't know. Cup competitions are so hard to win because it's one-off games, it's shootouts. I know it's two legs, but all it takes is one bad performance and you're out of a cup. But you could argue that to show up in them games is more impressive.
But be honest, like obviously they're in a relegation scrap, but what has West Ham really had thrown at them compared to what Brighton's lost a lot of players, they've lost a manager halfway through a season. They've got a team, I can't remember exactly what number, but it's a low squad value in terms of how much players are worth and how much are brought in. Compared to West Ham, where potentially Jared Bowen's worth more than Brighton's full 11. For Brighton to finish in a European position for the first time, and then West Ham in a relegation scrap when they've got players that should be fighting. They've not lost much since last season. And last season
West Ham have had a battle relegation. They've played something like, again, I'm making this up, but you get my point. They've played like 60 or 70 odd games in a season. They've been battling relegation. I know we agreed last week, but they're pretty much out of it, but they're kind of still in it. But as well as doing all of that and going through all of that and having to play youngsters in Europe and all that stuff, they are in a semi-final of the Europa Conference League, which I get isn't the Europa League, I get that, but it's still a pretty big competition. I mean, they've played AZ Alkmaar, Ghent was one of the ones I can remember off the top of my head. Again, we're not huge teams, but it's still a European competition, which they've earned their way into, and then to go on and win that competition, I just feel like that would be a better season because it's a silverware. At the end of we're not going to have a trophy parade or a bus parade at Brighton for finishing 6th, are we? We will have a bus parade at West Ham for winning the Europa Conference League.
Yeah, but, I mean...
It's a better season. So, who's had a better season, Man United or Arsenal, if Arsenal don't win the league?
Arsenal.
But Man United won the League Cup.
But they've got Champions League for the first time since... I can't remember exactly what you said, but for the first time since...
They've had greater progress than Man United. You can't argue with that. They've had greater progress, but they haven't had a better season because Man United have won a cup and also qualified for the same competition as Arsenal.
But Brighton also got to the semi-final FA Cup beating teams like Liverpool.
But semi-finals, nothing. Nobody remembers semi-finalists. You only remember the winners, don't you? You hardly remember finalists.
I just mean in terms of like just a great season.
Yeah, but I'm just talking about like one of the most important things in football is success. Not the most, but one of the most important things, success. Man United have won a League Cup. They might win an FA Cup. We don't know. We're not going to put that in the debate. But if Arsenal don't win the Premier League and Man United win the League Cup and finish one place behind in the league to Arsenal, Man United have had a better season.
So what if Southampton finished top 4 this season and Man City won a Carabao Cup? Who's had a better season?
When Man City win the league as well?
No, they finished second.
When Man City, because they're higher in the league. No, hang on. Man City only finished second.
Yeah, and won
both teams qualified. Teams qualified for the Champions League.
City won the Carabao Cup and finished second. Southampton finished top 4.
Man City because they finished above. Man City finished above. No, Southampton have made more progress, but Manchester City have had a more successful season because they've won a League Cup and they finished above Southampton by like 2 places. So Southampton have had more progress that season, but Manchester City have had a better season.
Let's be
It's like if West Ham win the Europa Conference League we're in the Europa League next year with Brighton, if Brighton finish 6th or above 6th or 5th. We're in the same competition next year, but West Ham have won a trophy. They've lifted a trophy. They will be able to celebrate a trophy. Their fans will have everlasting memories for the rest of their lives of watching their team lift a cup. And again, the argument with City is a bit different because City win all the time. So City could probably say, okay, Southampton had a better season. But I still would go Man City because they've won a cup. It's like Man United. If Arsenal don't win the league, Man United have had a better season because they won a League Cup. We don't know what's going to happen yet, but we won a League Cup in the same European competition next year as Arsenal. So Arsenal have made more progress, but Man United's had a better season.
I'm trying to think of the exact year. I can't really use it as a point to be fair because I can't remember how it actually. So Wigan, relegated from the Premier League, won the FA Cup, had a better season than someone like Chelsea that year. Who I believe Chelsea finished top 4.
Yeah, but the argument then would be, so don't pick Chelsea. Okay, let's say Chelsea finished 14th that season, right? Would you rather a team like Wigan win the FA Cup and go down a division, or a team like Chelsea have finished 14th? Wigan have had a better season.
No, yeah, that's spot on. But I'm talking if maybe not Chelsea's not a good demonstration, really. Example.
The example would be both teams would get relegated because they're both in the same competition next season. My point is West Ham, if they win the Europa Conference League, will qualify for Europa League. So Brighton and West Ham will both be in the Europa League next season, regardless of league position. But West Ham have a trophy, and it's the same with Man United and Arsenal. Man United and Arsenal will, if Arsenal don't win the league, will both be in the Champions League next season, same competition. But Man United have also lifted a cup. Could be potentially 2, but we'll just say they lose the final. Man United have still had a better season.
So what if the question you asked with West Ham and Brighton, the exact same question, but West Ham got relegated in the process as well. Who's had a better season?
No. Yeah, but then I'd probably disagree because West Ham have went down. So then Brighton have had a better
but your
season.
point is saying that silverware.
No, I said it's mostly about silverware. It's also about the competitions you play in next season. So the big part of my point is West Ham will be in the same competition as Brighton next season, the Premier League and the Europa League. However, they've actually won a trophy, whereas Brighton haven't. So West Ham have had a better season than Brighton.
I just think
if they win the Europa Conference League.
I just think it's harder to do it through the league than it is, especially. Maybe it's different. It's different. If it's like maybe Europa League, there's an argument on what's more difficult, league or winning the Europa League. There's no one.
Who's had a better season than Man United or Arsenal? If Arsenal don't win the league,
it's different with them though because they're both finishing in a good position in the league table.
Yeah, but they're both in the same competition next season. But who would you say has had a better season, Man United or Arsenal? If Arsenal finish second, let's just say Man United finish 4th, right? Because I want Newcastle to finish 3rd. Manchester United finish 4th, Arsenal finish 2nd, but Manchester United have won the League Cup.
With that point, I would say Manchester United. But that's because they are finishing in the same area, and United's won silverware over the top of Arsenal. With difference with West Ham, West Ham's finishing on the other end of the table.
So let's just say Man United finish 11th, but they win the FA Cup, so they qualify for Europe. You don't qualify for Champions League with FA Cup, do you? That's a shame. What about let's just pretend if you win the FA Cup, you qualify for the Champions League. If Man United would have finished 10th and win the FA Cup, and Arsenal finish 2nd and win nothing, who's had the better season?
I would say Arsenal.
But we're both in the Champions League next season.
But it's harder to do it in the league than what it is.
In this made-up scenario, if anyone's just tuned in and we're like, what you want about? You don't get Champions League for FA Cup. We know that, but just in the context. I don't know, I just think
it's harder to do it in the league than what it is a tournament.
They've had a better season than Arsenal if Arsenal don't win the Premier League. And I also think if West Ham, it's a big if by the way, if West Ham win Europa Conference League, they've had a better season than Brighton because they're in the same 2 competitions next season. But West Ham fans and players will have memories to last a lifetime of watching them lift a trophy.
If you change the competition, so keep the statement the same, the question the same, but you change West Ham's Conference League to Europa League, I'd say West Ham.
But that's because West Ham would then be in the Champions League next season.
No, but even if you get rid of that and they don't qualify, yeah, again,
Okay.
hypothetical. If they don't qualify for Champions League after winning Europa League, it's
Standard
still
of the competition, which is where you're
a
different.
better because I mean, say I don't know, Man City could win FA Cup, but they will play like Oxford and teams like that, and then I don't know where I'm going with that, but what I'm trying to say is like
Good point.
West Ham's cup run in terms of team reputation has been nowhere near as what Brighton's had to play this season. Brighton's beat teams like Liverpool this season. They beat teams like Chelsea this season. West Ham's beating teams in Conference League, which, yet again, I don't want to discredit the tournament because if I'm an Everton fan, I would love to win that. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, but my point back to that would be Arsenal got knocked out of the Europa League. On league form, Arsenal are way too good for the Europa League this season, but they still got knocked out. They still lost to Sporting Lisbon because
Yeah.
cup competitions are difficult.
Even Sporting Lisbon's like double the team that anyone is in Conference League.
I mean, AZ Alkmaar's had a good season. Again, I'm not trying to stick up for AZ Alkmaar, but they've had a pretty good season in terms of players and all that stuff. But
It's still a credit to West Ham. Like, if they go on and win it in a fair play, it's still a credit to them. I just think what Brighton's done this season, with all the problems they've had thrown their way, to
And
then
again,
still finish.
I know you made the point of Brighton have beat Liverpool, etc. But Brighton also lost to Forest 3-1.
Like, West Ham's lost to a lot of teams this season.
Yeah, but in the Conference League, they've beat Ghent. AZ Alkmaar's coming up. If they go on to win it, we would end up beating AZ Alkmaar, who were a decent team. Brighton also failed to beat Leeds. Like, I can't think of many. But again, I just feel like winning that cup competition is huge to the fans. Like, if Newcastle were to have won the League Cup, it would have been incredible. And the League Cup's cast as the least important competition in England.
I mean,
apart from Papa John's trophy, which apparently Sunderland fans think is the greatest thing in the world because they won it once with a pizza on top. But
they are undefeated, West Ham.
anyway, I think we should put that to the people who are listening. I feel like we should put that on the social media. Who's had a better season if West Ham went to win the Conference League? I feel like the majority of people will probably agree with you because, and again, this is nothing against Brighton. I quite like Brighton, but I feel like everything that Brighton does at the moment is just magical to people, and I understand why, because the recruitment has been incredible. The managers have done really, really well, and for a club the size of Brighton, we are punching well above their weight. But I just feel like the importance to teams like West Ham and Brighton, Newcastle, Everton, Villa, Forest, pretty much any team other than the Manchester teams at the moment, a trophy is just so important. It's so important to the fans. It's so important to the history. That makes you immortal. You become part of a team. Say in 200 years' time, we will look back and say, well, he was part of the West Ham team. I won't look back in 200 years' time and say he was part of the team which finished sixth for Brighton. That's my point.
Ignore this season, okay? Go back to the end of last season. If I came to you at the end of last season and said, what's more realistic? West Ham winning the Conference League with the form they were in last year, or Brighton finishing 7th, which one would you say is more believable?
Where did Brighton finish last year?
Quick fact. Okay, this may change the statement. Okay, I thought we're good with that one.
Depends. I can't remember much of last season. All I remember is the owners coming in and Eddie Howe.
They finished 9th. Okay, so potentially my argument's not valid, but still, but qualifying for Europe, Brighton qualified for Europe, or West Ham.
I'd still say West Ham winning a trophy because the Conference League again.
No, but what do you expect?
I'm not saying the Conference League is more is like a really top quality tournament, but when Roma won it, there was lots of praise to Mourinho winning another European competition, being the first winners. You know, they've overcome everybody else and won a European trophy at Roma for the look at the celebrations in Roma. Roma's a big club, by the way, and the fans celebrated like crazy in the streets, in the parade. Like, the Roma fans were buzzing because it was a trophy, and it's been a while since Roma have won anything. It's been even longer since West Ham have won anything, and it's a trophy and it's European. So if Roma's happy, if it's not too good for Roma, it can't be too good for West Ham, is the point I'm making. Okay. And I feel like that's why if West Ham win the Europa Conference League, they have had a better season than Brighton, in my opinion.
Okay.
But again, we'll put that out to people and see where we go. I feel like a majority of people will agree with you, because I feel like Brighton are very fashionable at the moment, rightly so. They've deserved it, they've earned it. I like Brighton, but I just feel like West Ham season would be better if we won a major trophy.